Hello and welcome back to State of Mind at Home With. My name's Owen Cottrell. I'm one of the trustees of State of Mind Sport, and we're recording this series of videos during the coronavirus pandemic of 2020. As we begin to tentatively emerge from lockdown, we're carrying on the series regardless. And this week, we're honoured to be joined by another one of our presenting team, former Super League referee, Ian Smith. Ian, first of all and all importantly, how are you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm pretty good, thanks, Owen. Been a strange 7 or 8 weeks, as we know. But I've not been too bad. But, I like routine and not having the routine of work. And we've got a 1-year-old grandson, so not being able to see the grandson's been quite difficult at times. But on the whole, it's not been too bad. And hopefully we now can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's that feeling of missing out on certain things, isn't it? I think that's when it really bites a bit.
Oh yeah, very much so. Like I said, we've got a 1-year-old grandson, and to only have Zoom chats and FaceTime and things like that has been quite difficult because we're seeing him grow up in front of our eyes, and it's you want to have that cuddle with him and this and the other, but we know that will come, and we've just got to keeping safe and looking after each other, and eventually I'll get my cuddle.
Good stuff. Right, so let's talk a little bit about your career, Ian, and if it's okay with you, we'll rewind back to your earlier years. Tell us about what childhood looked like for you, mate, and what was your relationship with sport like as you grew up?
Yeah, I was a professional rugby league player. Played for Huddersfield in the 50s. Then went to Salford. He got quite a bad leg injury when I think it was about 21, 22. So that finished his career. But I used to go up to Watersheddings watching Oldham every Sunday. And so my introduction to rugby league was pretty much as soon as I could walk. And I've been a big rugby league fan ever since. It's in my bones, it's in my DNA, and it's a sport that I've absolutely loved. To be fair, at school, we didn't really play rugby league, so I was a footballer. It's only when I left school that I decided to play it. Not very well, I hasten to add. And I played for a local amateur rugby league team for 14 years called Salem Hornets before I took up refereeing. So that was my introduction into rugby league.
Very good. So as you were growing up and you tried your hand at playing the game, can you remember what it was that first started making you think about perhaps having another role in the sport at some stage?
Yeah, I kept getting injured because I wasn't strong enough, hard enough, fast enough, or big enough. So I was just sick of the injuries. And as an amateur player, and there'll be thousands of amateur players all around the country knowing that if you miss work, you didn't get paid. So I couldn't really afford to miss any more work. And I was always one of them, really, that I knew the rules. So if the referee got it wrong, I thought, I'm sure he's got that wrong. And it was something I was fascinated in, the laws and the interpretations of the laws of the game. So my natural progression was to go from a player to a referee.
So what did that look like, that pathway? How does someone become a Super League or rugby league referee? How do you have to sort of graduate through the ranks, as it were, to get to that stage?
In those days, you literally went to your local referee society and sat the entrance exam, and then you got put in the mercy of the appointment officers at the amateur level, junior and then open age, and you just got sent out on a weekly basis to referee the matches. And then with the scores that would come back in, hopefully you got promoted into like the national conference and then the lower ends of the professional ranks. That's how it was for me then. It's a little bit more structured now. You have to do more set courses from central office and it's a lot more planning and structure to it. But in them days, it was a little bit ad hoc.
When you first started refereeing, did you get the bug straight away? Did you really just adapt to it and love it from the word go?
Oh my God, yeah. I can remember the first game I did, Haywood under 14s. As soon as I finished, I just thought, oh my God, I love this. I felt good, I felt comfortable, and it just got me straight away. And I couldn't wait for the next game and the next game and the next game. And the more I refereed, obviously, the better I got, and the quicker I shot up the ranks, if you like.
When you reflect on your career now, Ian, what were the biggest highlights and achievements, would you say, for you as an official? And was there perhaps a single game that you officiated over that just lives long in the memory and you maybe consider the pinnacle?
I was absolutely, there'll be many people watching this will testify this. I was not a great referee by any stretch of the imagination. And when I did that under 14s game at Haywood, if somebody had said then that you will work for the RFL for the next 20 years, both part-time and full-time, and officiate just short of 300 Super League games, I'd have absolutely ripped their hands off then. But I was never good enough to referee a grand final or a Challenge Cup final. So I never got those type of honours. But I found myself, very lucky to have refereed as many Super League games that I did. Probably the standout game really was my last one, which I do talk about for State of Mind, where it was Hull versus Leeds and I sent off Lee Radford. And I think just the negativity and the aggro that I received from that, it ended up being my last game and I went on to the coaching staff. So that's one that, for the wrong reasons, lived long in the memory. But I refereed a lot of Wigan Saints derbies, which were fantastic. I remember, obviously, God bless him, Terry Newton, who the charity, as we all know, started out by his tragic suicide. He broke Sean Long's jaw very late. And again, it was another one that I missed. It was that late. And even years after, I still got reminded about the missing Terry Newton breaking Sean Long's jaw, unfortunately.
We'll come on, Ian, to some of the sort of more challenging and perhaps negative aspects of the role that you fulfilled all those years. But just on the sort of career reflection, was there a particular player that you perhaps will always remember refereeing, or perhaps one that you always looked forward to being involved in a game with, and why?
Oh, what a good question. I was thinking about this morning. There's been so many outstanding, wonderful players over the 12 years in Super League, plus the coaching and the video reffing as well. A lot of the Oldham lads, Bo Sculthorpe's outstanding. Barry McDermott, I lived next to Barry Mac many years ago, and then I used to referee him at night, and my God, he was tough as they come. And Kevin Sinfield, another Oldham lad, so I'm trying to big it up here for the Oldham guys. Ian Knott, obviously, another presenter of ours, and Paul Eiton. And, they were just outstanding players. I think probably one that stands out was very early in my career, an absolute rugby league legend called Alan Langer, when he played at Warrington. Oh my God, he could do things with a rugby ball that, it was just magic. And to be on the same pitch as some of them legends that I've mentioned, and somebody like an Alan Langer, it was just an absolute privilege for me.
When you're in that sort of situation, in and amongst it with some absolute quality players, do you sometimes have to just remind yourself what you're there to do, but rather than sort of just standing back and admiring what they're doing in front of you?
Oh, very much so. It's very, very easy to just admire what they do rather than just, hang on a minute, I'm here to do a job. I learned that a good lesson right early on in my career with Alan Langer. I give a forward pass against him and he just stood with his hands on his hips, shaking his head. And when I've watched the video, I'm overemphasising the fact that I've given a forward pass against this rugby league legend. And when I look back on video at that, I look stupid. I look like I was trying to justify to the great man that, I pulled him up for a forward pass. And then once you realise that, hang on a minute, I'm here to do a job. My job is to referee the game. His job is to play. And we have our own specific rules. And then once you can relax into it, that comes with experience. Unfortunately, you're not born with that experience. You learn it through life's, experiences and often through mistakes.
You talked a bit about, the pressures and the challenges of refereeing and officiating. For those of us who've never experienced what that's like to be a referee, can you describe it to us kind of maybe physically and emotionally? What do you go through when you're out there?
Physically, it's very demanding. We and the refs still are fitted with GPS and heart rate data. So you run 11 kilometres. I used to run between 10 and 11 kilometres in 80 minutes. That's a tough ask in its own right. And it's not like on a track or on a road where you're just running forward. You're running sideways, backwards, and all the different angles that we're running at. So physically, it's demanding, and also you have to talk constantly while you're running, to give the players the information that they need. Emotionally, I think because the pressure cooker that is on the referee, and it's especially at elite level, you're talking about people's livelihoods, people's careers, winning trophies, getting relegated, and the pressure that the media and the TV put on you. It is really difficult at times, and if you're not careful and you get consumed in that emotion, you end up not doing your job. You end up worrying about other things that you can't control. And once you can control that, your own emotions, by doing your job to the best of your ability, it does become a lot easier. But that, believe you me, Owen, is easier said than done.
Absolutely. So I'll turn to a question we had in on Twitter, Ian, now from our colleague Phil Cooper. Dr. Cooper asked, how do officials manage to make so many correct decisions when exerting so much physical and emotional energy during a game?
Always comes up with good questions with Dr. Phil. I think it's just the practice. I think it's just the routine of watching hundreds and thousands of play the balls, hundreds of thousands of passes, and the tackles and what players should and shouldn't do, and then getting out there and actually doing it. And it's like anything, the more you do it, the better you become at it. And sometimes we tend to, as players, as referees, as coaches, as fans, and administrators, we tend to focus on the negatives. We focus on the mistakes. And Dr. Phil's absolutely correct. We'll make 20,000 judgments in a game, of which 95, 96% of them are perfectly good. But unfortunately, fans and players and coaches only tend to focus on the very few that we do wrong and make mistakes with.
Absolutely. So you've mentioned to me in the past, Ian, that a match referee kind of wears a mask and adopts a role. What can you elaborate a bit on that for people watching? What do you sort of mean when you say that?
Well, it was only really for me because I was, and I still am. I'm really nervous now talking here. I'm quite insecure and I am quite shy in most aspects of my life. However, because I felt really confident as a referee, because I really loved what I did, as soon as I got the whistle in my hand, as soon as I stepped foot over that whitewash, I felt I became a different person because I felt I was good at what I did. And the decisions that I made, I was confident to a certain degree in making them. I felt I was a different person. So, but then when I came away from that, I tried to get out of the ground and get to my car as quickly as possible and as safely as possible to get home, so I could watch the game. But it was just the uniform and the whistle and being on that stage with all them fantastic athletes that made me feel like a different persona, if you like. But, I felt like I was a different person.
That's really interesting, that sort of kind of sense of identity, I suppose, that a job like that can give you. Let's move on now to those difficult elements. Now, for those of us who love our sport and are passionate about our teams, it's probably fair to say that there are moments when the referees and the officials out on the pitch are not the most popular people in our minds. So when we're at games and we hear abuse hurled at officials from the stands, as we sadly do all too regularly, what is that like from your perspective as the referee out there in the middle, Ian? How does that make you feel? How does that affect you?
I think when you're actually in the game itself, because you've got an earpiece on and you're listening to information from the touch judges, you're so focused and you're so in the zone during the game, you don't hear that much of it. It's when there's a little quiet bit or there's a kick at goal or whatever, and you hear the chanting. That's when it can get to you during the game. I think most of the stuff is the negativities before, at half time and after, especially walking back to your car, and especially now with social media. There's too many people on social media that just throw out insults for the sake of insults and I don't think these people realise the impact it has on people's mental well-being. So during the game, yeah, you heard the chanting, you heard the shouts of forward pass and get him onside and all that lot. But because you were so focused in the job that you were doing, it was really secondary at the time.
So that brings me on to a question, again from Twitter. This is from Joe Phillips, one of our colleagues. She said, how did you manage to maintain your composure during a match if and when you were subjected to abuse? And I guess that might have come sometimes from players or coaches on the touchline as much as from the stands.
I think we're like the proverbial duck. You know, on the outside, we have to look calm and serene and in control and confident. On the inside, you're absolutely bubbling. You know, just to go back on the heart rate data that we used to have, my average heart rate was 155 beats a minute. You know, so that amount of adrenaline, that amount of emotion going around your body. Of course, you know, it's difficult to stay in the now, but you have to look calm, you have to look confident. But I can assure you, inside we were churning away. So, you know, what Jo maybe thought she saw about that calm, serene person, I can assure you, inside you was absolutely churning away. With nerves and excitement as well at the same time. You know, it was nervous, but it was also a fantastic place to be in the middle of that rugby league field with them absolute outstanding athletes.
I suppose, you know, when you think about most people's work, on any work day, if you make a mistake in the morning, it can impact the rest of your day. But perhaps you've not made that mistake in front of tens of thousands of people watching. What's it like for you as a referee if you have made perhaps an incorrect call early in a game and then you have to go on and perform to that level for the rest of the 80 minutes?
We always used to try to put it in the past, live in the now. You made a mistake, move on. Sometimes it's difficult to move on when you know that an early incorrect call can have a massive outcome for the result. But there's no point in trying to even anything up. I know you'll hear fans especially say, oh, he's even that up. No referees go out to even it up because two wrongs, you know, ultimately don't make a right. So it's about get over it, move on, and just stay in the now and perform the rest of the game to the best of your ability and reduce the mistakes.
You clearly loved being a rugby league ref, Ian. When and why did you decide that enough was enough for you? And ultimately, what was it that made you want to hang up the whistle?
I think I mentioned it before about the Hull Leeds game with sending off Lee Radford. After the game, the police came into the ground and couldn't guarantee me safe passage to my car, and my car had to get brought into the stadium, and you know, it was just a ridiculous end. You know, it's a sport. Don't get me wrong; it's an emotive sport. And it's a sport we all love. But in the end of the day, it is sport. It's not life and death. And to have for the police not and the security at the ground not to be able to guarantee me safe passage to my car was tough to take. It culminated with the last game of the season for me. It culminated with the opportunity to go on the coaching staff that Stuart Cummins offered me. And that perfect storm really meant that I hung up my whistle, in retrospect, way sooner than I should have done. But, you know, at the time, I felt that was probably the best decision for my future going forward. But ultimately, it was the worst decision I probably ever made as a professional rugby league referee. But that's by and by now.
So, I mean, that's tough. Well, it's ridiculous that you know, you end up having to have your car brought to you in the stadium and you know, or given safe passage. But how does that leave its mark on you, Ian? What happened in those sort of weeks and months after you decided to move on from being a referee?
I think with a lot of this, a lot of it's retrospective. I think when, as a referee and you live in that bubble, I don't think you realise how much that negativity and how much that abuse from external sources has an impact on your mental fitness and your mental well-being. It's only when you sit back and at the end of your career or other times and you think, oh my God, you know, I didn't sleep for days and weeks on end or after a game because of the mistakes. You worried like hell about the next appointment because of a mistake you might have made 2 or 3 days before. And, you know, and it's just when you actually look at yourself from afar at the end of it, you know, just how much of a toll it took on me. Now, please don't take this wrong. I absolutely love being a rugby league referee. I would go back and do it tomorrow if I could. There are things I'd do differently. However, you know, this is not to say that I didn't love what I did. I'm just now, through State of Mind, hopefully going around trying to educate that, you know, abuse to anybody doing the job, whether you work in an office, on a construction site, or on a rugby league field, is abhorrent, you know, and just by having a go at somebody because they may make a mistake doing the job is wrong. You know, if every time I can stop one person who goes to a rugby league game having a go at the referee, then, you know, hopefully we're going the right way along this journey.
Yeah, there's definitely a massive issue around empathy, I think, isn't there? And you and I are working together through State of Mind on a innovative project that we'll talk a bit more about kind of in the future, I think. But that project's all about trying to maybe educate and enlighten people a bit about what it is like to be in the position of the referee, and hopefully engender some more empathy among not just supporters either, coaches, rugby league clubs, and the institutions in the game.
Yeah, you get lots of people that, you know, saying, why would you want to be a referee? Because it's fantastic. You know, the Rugby Football League are trying to encourage a lot of ex-players and players to go into refereeing. And a lot of them, why would we? Why would we go from being, you know, idolised from the terraces from our fans to being vilified, you know, the man in the middle? You know, why would you want to do that? Or the woman in the middle? Because there's lots of men and women refereeing, and you know, eventually, you know, it will be equal ops for everybody, which is absolutely fantastic. But why would you want to, you know, put yourself up on that pedestal to get vilified? It seems obscene.
Well, that takes us on to a question that was asked actually by Jo Phillips again. She asked, what would your advice be now to aspiring match officials?
Get yourself a good mentor. You know, get yourself somebody that when you're feeling low, when you're feeling flat, when you're feeling down, or even when you're feeling fantastic, before, during, or after the game, that you can talk to. Doesn't have to be a former referee, just somebody that can give you good advice, stay calm, keep positive, and when you're feeling low and flat, just bring you up. Even if it's, you know, just chat about anything. You know, it doesn't have to be about the decision. So, you know, my advice would be get yourself a really good mentor, you know, rather than just try to pick through everything on your own, you know, and that absolutely would be my advice.
And just to add to that, I suppose, Gold Star on Twitter asked, knowing what you now know about the abuse that referees can get, especially the social media trolling, would you still have chosen to become a professional referee? I know you said you'd go back to it tomorrow if you could, but if you could have your time all over again, you know, do you think you would knowingly kind of put yourself in that position again now?
Yeah, I would, very much so. Again, the positives absolutely far outweigh the negatives. I wouldn't take some of the abuse, I wouldn't take all of the abuses personally as I did. You know, I really felt that it was a personal attack on me and Smith, the individual, where a lot of the frustration from the players, from the fans especially, maybe things that are going on in their own life. Maybe it's a way of once a week I'm going to vent, and I'm going to vent my spleen to the only person I feel I can vent it to, and that's the referee. Unfortunately, the referee is somebody that laughs, cries, bleeds and screams. So when you are venting your anger and your frustrations onto somebody else, that they can take that on board themselves.
In terms of what you've described the referee's role as being in the past, you've said that it can be a really lonely place, and you've also described, I think, you know, post-retirement at one stage hitting rock bottom. What's your message to people out there at the moment who for very obvious reasons might be feeling particularly lonely and isolated, and who might be feeling like they're moving into a darker and darker place?
When I left the RFL January 2016, and I pretty much isolated myself for the next 6 months. I was out of work for, you know, 6 of the next 12 months. And I found it difficult because the thing that I loved doing was not there anymore. But obviously what I do now with State of Mind and going around and I'm very much into the 5 ways to mental fitness, mental well-being. I practice them pretty much every day through every aspect of my life. And I don't want it to sound a cliche, but if I want to get physically fit, I'll exercise, I'll eat healthy, I'll cut down on alcohol intake, etc., etc., because I want to stay physically fit. And we can improve our mental fitness, by the 5 ways, connecting. Yeah, it's difficult at this time to connect with people. I want to give my grandson a hug, but you know what I do? I connect with him via Zoom. I connect with him via FaceTime, so I can still see his development, so I can still connect with the people that I love, and friends and family, without having to be in the same room with them. Getting active, we have our hour of exercise a day. I know from now on it's as much exercise as you want. But I've been using that. I've been going out and walking some trails around here that I've not walked for years, if ever. So that brings you then onto the mindfulness bit. When I'm outside, I'm smelling the roses. I'm looking around at the nature because of the noise level reducing. You can do all that. And I'm learning. I'm learning about resilience. I know Jimmy Gittins is massive on the resilience part of it. But something? Because of being isolated 4 years ago when I lost my job, I've not found it nowhere near as bad as I thought I would do because of that resilience that's built up. And I'm learning about myself. And maybe, to be honest, anything that's moved all these last 7 weeks has been painted a bit like at Jimmy's house, and then the last one is giving to others. I've texted and messaged people on a quite regular basis that I haven't been connected with for a long time, and some of it's just a simple, hey, how are you? Are you all right? And that's the message that all our presenters at State of Mind say. Just ask them, are you okay? So that's what I do. The 5 ways to mental well-being is what I do all the time to improve my mental fitness, and I'm feeling fantastic from it.
Yeah, brilliant point. And I think it's never been more important that people kind of use that really simple tool and those five ways to just kind of look after themselves all day, every day. And, in terms of giving, even doing this, giving your time up now, Ian, is going to be helping so many other people connect with your story and maybe give them a slightly different perspective on things. So thank you again. Let's talk a little bit about State of Mind now. So at what stage in your journey did State of Mind sort of come onto the radar, Ian? How did you first become aware of the charity and ultimately become involved in what we do?
Phil Cooper came to do a session with the match officials and the RFL a good few years ago now, and it seemed to stick. And then there was a point towards the back end of 2016 where I just need a little bit of help and a little bit of guidance, and Paul Iton put me in touch with Phil Cooper, and I came to do a little presentation in front of the trustees and the presenters at Salford, and they just seemed to like what I said back then, and I started off slowly with some of the rugby league clubs, and then gradually it's grown and grown and grown, and it's just, I absolutely love working for this charity, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up anybody's backside here. It's wonderful. We meet some fantastic people. The one thing about the way emotions run and how we help ourselves is that physical injuries, sometimes they can, if I break my leg, there's only really one way to fix a broken leg, but there's 1,000,001 reasons why we might have mental health issues, and there's also 1,000,001 solutions. And listening to how different people improve their mental health and improve the circumstances is just awe-inspiring, and I'm learning every single day. I've learned more in these last 3 years than I did do for the first 51. It's just a wonderful journey I'm on with the charity. The one guy is a guy called Ian Lawton, who I met at the Warrington Offload, probably, getting on for 3 years ago now. And he's just become a really good personal friend as well. I do a thing with these chairs, 1 to 10 on chairs, and how our emotional journey can move up and down this chairs. And just every now and again, he'll send me a text and he'll say, "Hi, E, hope you're well. I'm a 6 today." Now, I know what 6 means to him and this and the other. you know, and he'll say, I'm going to see my grandkids this weekend, so I'm going to go up to 7, and just little things like that, and little messages from people like that just give you the happiness that what we do can make a small difference. You know, we might not change the world, but if we can make small changes to either individual or groups of people, what a fantastic job this is now. Honestly, it's unbelievable. Love it.
Did you find it difficult to adapt to doing the sort of presenting work that you do for State of Mind? Did it have parallels with standing up, you know, being the man in the middle as a referee, or did you find it difficult to adapt to it?
I found it a little bit difficult at first, but again, it's a bit like when I used to grab hold of the whistle. As soon as I got that whistle and walked onto that field, it's a bit like now with the clicker. You know, as soon as you get all that clicker to move the next slide on, I generally Jimmy and Danny and Phil did all the clickers. But you know what I mean? As soon as you get hold of that clicker, or as soon as you put a different game face on, you put a different mode on, and it's like all the nerves and the excitement before, you know, just seem to go. But I like nerves. I like to feel a little bit nervous. You know, I like to feel that the heart rate's going that little bit. You know, it makes you focus. It makes you really want to be either the best presenter you can be, the best referee you can be, or whatever. You know, so a little bit of nerves is fantastic. But again, holding that clicker is like my proverbial whistle from the past.
Just want to ask you to kind of reflect a little bit on your career and whether you sort of see the work you're now doing with us as a charity kind of as an extension really of what you did as a match referee, you know, and actually, just how do you reflect now when you think back over your career, Ian?
I think I underachieved. You know, I was frustrated that I didn't make more of the opportunities that I had, but that's life. Because of my love for rugby league, because of my love for the sport and being a referee, the opportunity now to go out with the charity and talk about things that happened during my career and talk about Terry Newton like we do, who was tough to referee. You know, he was a really hard player and greatly missed, as we all know. And to talk about, you know, Chris Leatherbarrow, you know, I was his coach, I was his mentor, and when Chris took his own life, absolutely devastated. But to talk about those people and other rugby league greats through the charity, you know, again, it just makes me feel alive. You know, it makes me feel like the 20 years of rugby league referee maybe has brought me to this point in my life now.
And just on the State of Mind stuff that you do, it's taken you some places, hasn't it? In terms of, you know, it's taken you to the corridors of power down in London, I believe, and then to sort of big commercial venues and conferences.
Oh yeah, very much so. You know, to go into the Houses of Parliament with Danny Sculthorpe, you know, a while ago now, just to talk to big construction bosses about health and safety and mental well-being in the construction industry, was just amazing. You know, to walk along the corridors that all these great leaders have done and looking at all the pictures. You know, I love English history. And so I was in awe just to stand there and look up and look around at some of the tapestries and some of the architecture that has stood for nearly 1,000 years. To be honest, it's given me goosebumps now. It was just a wonderful privilege. And to do that while representing the charity, just, you know, it's just unbelievably fantastic.
Brilliant stuff, Ian. Okay, so just to finish up on a light note, I guess, I'm going to roll out a question that Alan Johnston's asked a few of our interviewees, and he said, if you were stuck in a lift, Ian, which State of Mind colleague would you want with you and why?
Oh, easy one. You know, I'm going absolutely with Notty from the other week. You know, it has to be our former chair, Malcolm. You know, from the first moment I met Malcolm, his enthusiasm from all them, you know, hundreds of years of experience. I hope he won't watch this, but all the decades of experience he's got and he can get from, just unbelievable. You know, he just had this enthusiasm to want to help everybody and pass on his many years of experience. And he's a dry sense of humour as well. So, yeah, absolutely Malcolm in a lift. So I'm with Notty on that one.
And just finally, Jimmy Gittins, obviously you mentioned Jimmy earlier, another colleague of ours. He said, knowing you as I do, being so organised and loving attention to detail, does it wind you up when a colleague, one in particular, is the complete opposite?
Oh, absolutely. I'll send him some presentation across and say, right, Jim, I'm just going to move that slide to there because of this, that, and the other, everything. And then I'll speak to him and we'll get to the venue and I'll say, what did you think of that email I sent over? Oh, I've not seen it. Oh, don't worry about it. We'll be right. You know, because we're complete opposites. But that's what I like about it. That's what I like about all the other presenters. We all deliver the same message, but in our own inimitable style. And it just works. And that's the beauty about it. You know, you don't have to be a robot. You don't have to be the same as the next person. But God, yeah, you don't have to wind me up.
Lovely stuff. Right, Ian, thank you so much, mate. Really, really appreciate your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat through stuff with you. And, you know, hopefully if things continue on the trajectory they are, it won't be that long before we're all back out there kind of face to face doing what we do as a charity. So thank you ever so much, and continue to look after yourself and your family and your loved ones, and hopefully see you soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Owen.
Cheers, Ian. Thanks, mate. All the best. Bye-bye.